And welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining another Agile Requirements Designer Community webcast. Today we're going to be covering what's new in ARD. That's the latest release for the Agile Requirements product. On the phone today we have Josh Taylor and Alex Martin, who are members of the ARD product team. They're going to be giving you a presentation and a short demo as well. If you have any questions as we're going through the session today, you can feel free to enter those into the Q&A box. You'll find that in the right-hand column of your WebEx screen. If you don't see the Q&A box maximized, there is a box at the top with a blue box with a question mark in it. You can click that, and that'll expand the Q&A box. And you can type your questions in there, and then we'll get to them at the end of the session today. Also, at the end of the session, we'll be opening up the line for verbal questions. So if you have any questions you'd rather ask over the phone, you can go ahead and do it at that time, and we'll let you know how to unmute your line and do that at the end of the session today. Okay, so I'm going to turn the call over now. Take it away, Josh.
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time of your day. And let's just jump in and look at what we have for you in ARD 2.7. So just got an overview slide just to show you guys, what we're going to cover today. So exactly like Melanie said, I'm just going to go through each of these items, explain a little bit about them, and then we can jump into a demo to show you guys how this is used. So let's kick off with the first one. Automatic Model Building Accelerator. This is actually really cool and really exciting for us. So if anyone has used ARD before, you know the first step of ARD is creating that model, right? Representing whatever you want to test manually. I mean, you've got to kind of drag and drop things on the canvas, think about how the system works. It's quite a complex process, and that process is incredibly useful. The one thing we're trying to get around is how do we make that easier to start? I mean, how do we give the user a starting point which is better than just a blank screen? And this is our first answer to that. So if anyone's familiar with Selenium Builder, we use that, and it's a Firefox plugin. And the great thing about Selenium Builder is that it's a recording tool for test cases. So you flip on this recorder, you interact with the application, it'll record all the interactions and then make an executable script that you can run later. Now, what we do with that is we take a whole bunch of test cases which are generated in Selenium Builder, we bring them in, we break it down into each step of the test case. So each step is going to be a part of the model. We bring in the information, we can bring in the name of the step and the description of the step, and then we automatically find out, through all these test cases where the overlap is. I mean, how do we actually break down individual test cases into a model? So we do that by identifying duplicates. And essentially we just take those test cases, put them all together, and make a concise model. So that model should be a good representation of what your system is actually looks like. So if you have test cases which are executing against the system already, those test cases describe how the system works. So we'll use those to build a model. So we bring in the descriptions, we bring in the names, we also bring in the automation script. Now this is a really cool bit as well. So not only do you get a model which ARD just creates for you, but it also creates the automation within. So that means if you want to make a change to that model, you want to add some more information, all you have to do is add a small piece here and another piece of automation, and ARD will automatically create your new automation scripts. So there's so many hurdles which this one feature helps you with. Automatically creates the model, automatically creates your automation configuration, and automatically starts generating new scripts. I mean, it's an amazing starting point. And the great thing is, Selenium Builder is a free plugin to install for Firefox. You can install it, play around for a couple of minutes, hit the application how you like, come into ARD, click a few buttons, and you get a model. I mean, it's as simple as that. So we're really excited about that. So I'm going to show you that a little bit later. My next item is
hey, Josh,
housekeeping. Yep.
Josh, just a quick comment on that one, because like you said, it is a huge deal for us, right, the automatic model building creation, because, we see a lot of teams that are using ARD trying to tackle new applications, right, and some users that are, about to start using ARD, and they're really not sure how to get started. So you know, and there's also always that perception that it's going to be a lot of initial work, upfront work to get started on creating the model when, you know, you already have test cases created for an application. So sometimes you might feel that you're duplicating work over there. So this functionality is basically, you know, eliminating that thought process, because if you have an existing application, you have existing test cases, let's say you have a regression testing suite, and you already run that regularly, all you have to do next time you run it, right, is to basically have Selenium Builder running in the background, you know, for your web application. And while you're manually running your test cases as part of your regression testing cycle, Selenium Builder will be capturing all of that you're doing on the screens, as Josh was explaining. And then at the end of your regression testing, you know, you stop the recording, and then you go into ARD and you import the output of that recording. And then, as Josh mentioned, you will get the model. And that model will be representing everything that you did on that screen. So in other words, if your regression testing suite is, you know, you probably trust that suite. It's, you know, supposed to be sort of preventing or making sure that you're not breaking anything else, right? And there's no regression on the system. So you probably feel comfortable with that suite. So the model that we give you is essentially a good representation of, you know, it's an accurate representation of your regression testing suite. And since you probably trust it, it's a good representation of good test coverage as well. So now you look at that model that will be an optimized model, because it will eliminate any, you know, duplicate steps or overlapping steps. So if you go through a login multiple times on different test cases, we'll optimize that and streamline it. So that end result model that was created without any interaction from you or any, you know, action from you, you will look at it and you will basically say, well, you know, yes, it is representing and giving me the right amount of coverage that I need. But what we also see is some teams going in, oh my God, I actually was not covering an important piece of my system, and I didn't have it in my regression testing suite. So moving forward, you can add to that model and make sure you are covering what you need. So it's a great starting point. It's a great accelerator. You have the model for, you know, that reflects accurately your existing, you know, test cases, and you didn't have to put in any work. So it's really game-changing for us. We're getting amazing feedback from our existing users, and you know, we hope that you can, you know, if you haven't yet, that you can download the latest version and give it a try, because it's really going to make your life easier as you start working with, you know, with new applications that you haven't worked yet.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. It's a really good point. You know, new users, oh, I think this is going to be difficult. This comes in, makes it less difficult. Oh, I already have existing work. Perfect, we'll use that. I mean, it's got so many avenues. We're really proud to ship this feature. And like Alex said, download it and try it out for yourself. I'd love to get some feedback on that. So let's go to our next item. A nice and simple process of just activating the product. I mean, we had a couple of users hit a couple of problems, so we thought, okay, how do we just make this a lot simpler, nice and easy? When you first download the tool, you get this pop-up. It asks you what kind of license you want, nice and easy. I want to be a trial license, that's great. You click next, it's activated. That's it, it's your entire process. Just makes it a lot cleaner process. You know, just paste your API, paste your license key in there, activate it to, perfect. If you're a concurrent license user and you need to point ARD towards the license server, it'll ask you for that. So it's just a nice, simple UI to take some of the pain away from activating the product. And the nice thing we did as well, so we changed this that any version of ARD, if you don't have a license, you could automatically flip this now into a viewer application. So if you no longer have a license, your license expired, but you still want to take a look at your models, it's great. Just come into this wizard, you tick the viewer application, it'll activate, doesn't ask for a key, and you can view all the flows you've opened. And the other really nice thing is we also have 2 license types in ARDs. You can either be a concurrent user or you can just have a single named license key. So each option offers kind of some flexibility for the customer. But there's a bit of a thought that, what if I want both? So we kind of built that in as well. So we now prioritize concurrent usage. If you have a license server, say you have a full copy of ARD on a license server and you want to use that, but then when you're traveling, you can't reach the license server anymore, well, that's fine. Maybe you can fall back and just be a viewer license. So you can use both license types at the same time now. So it gives it a bit of more flexibility and solves a lot of problems to make this a nicer process. My next item I want to focus on is Agile Central. So everyone who has used any of these software delivery lifecycle tools, we've got a whole plethora of integration points. I mean, we can import test cases from ALM and Jira, Agile Central, TFS, and these are really important to customers. I mean, ARD is the house which generates you the perfect set of test cases, but then the process continues on from us. So it's really important that we hand off these test cases into these systems as nicely as possible. So integrations are a really big part for us. And Agile Central has this amazing piece of test plans that you can just organize your test cases into scheduled packs. So, I've got this nice example on the screen of test plans for sprints. So we built in a bit of extra functionality so ARD can find these test plans. So you can browse them inside ARD. You can import test cases from them if you want to use those to help you create a model. We can also create folders inside them so you can change the structure of how the test plans look inside Agile Central. And obviously we made it easy so you can export test cases to the plans. And this just lets you organize the test cases a lot better. This is a highly requested feature, so that's hopefully going to make things a lot smoother for people. Moving on, we've also got a nice feature for our integration. So if anyone has used one of these integrations before, I think you'll kind of agree that we have this configuration setup where ARD contacts your software. Let's say it's ALM for a moment. It'll contact the ALM project and ask for the definition of test cases. And ARD then lets you control how we configure against those test cases. So if you have specific attributes inside ALM which you created, let's think of an example. Say it's a release number, right? So you want to populate that release number every time ARD exports to ALM. Using our configuration screen, you can do that. It's that flexible, and that's a really, really powerful feature. The one thing we try to make easier is actually making that configuration process as automated as possible. So we've done 2 things. You can right-click any item you need to configure, and you can ask ARD to try and set a default configuration. The ARD will try and give you a starting point. So we'll go through all the attributes and say, okay, well, we think that this setup makes sense for you. And then you can take a look and you can change a little bit. But it gives you that starting point, which is really good and really fast. The other nice thing is if you have configured a project already, say you have multiple projects in your organization and you need to configure both of them, but they're not quite the same, that's fine. You can actually copy the configuration from an existing project and duplicate it. And then you can just change that nice and easy. So the time taken to get users started should be reduced to no time at all. Say you're a first-time user, you come into ARD, and you need to set one of these configurations up, no problem. Right-click, say set to default, gives you that starting point. If you wanted to change, you can change it later, no problem at all. So that should make that process a lot slicker. So I'm really, really proud of that, actually. Our next one is a nice and light item, which is the icon set. So a little while ago, we changed the front UI of ARD to be this ribbon design, which we're really quite a fan of. But the icons never quite matched up. So we've taken some time, we've gone back, and we've redesigned all the icons, nice uniform set, and they all kind of blend together. It's really nice. It makes it a more consistent feel and makes navigating around the product a little bit nicer. Moving on, another key integration for us, application test. So for those users who are CA service virtualization customers or application test customers, if you use app test before, you'll find this useful. If you have service virtualization, you actually have application test included, so you might find this useful. So application test is an execution engine for test cases, and it's really mature. I mean, the actions you can do, you can set up some pretty complicated test cases there inside app test. It's really, really powerful tool. And the place which ARD comes in is that if you have an existing test case and you would like to execute that test case with multiple sets of data, so you just want to drive that single test case with, as many inputs as you can fathom, that's where ARD comes in. So we use ARD to generate data combinations, and then we'll take that app test file and populate it full of these data combinations so you can run it multiple times. And that's really powerful, actually. So we've got two things with this. The first step is if you have the app test file and you actually want to use that to start building your ARD model, you can do that. So we can select the file, we'll scan the file, we'll find all the items in your test case, we'll find all the variables, because that's really what you care about, right, with data driving this test case. We'll scan the file, we'll find the variables, and we'll bring those in. And that gives you a nice starting point. So you get all the variables automatically created, and then you can just spend time on the stuff that matters. You can just start putting the logic in which defines all the data. So once you have this data model done, perfect, you can just say export back to app test. You pick the file it came from, and ARD will turn that one file into n number of files. So if you have 100 data combinations, it'll give back 100 test cases for you. So that's really powerful, and this new release makes starting that process so much easier because we can now bring in that file and read those variables to get started. So it makes data driving testing that much easier. Coming to my last item on the list is our new optimizer. And this piece is so exciting for me, actually. So the optimizer itself is such a big part of ARD. I mean, we get so much from this engine. It's got so many features built into it that it's such a big part that any change here really matters to customers. So what we've done is we've taken our original optimizer, taken everything we've learned, and we've re-engineered it. We rebuilt this thing from scratch. I mean, we went back to basics and went back to the smallest minute details and started there. And I mean, the results have come back and they've been incredible. So we've managed to get some great performance bumps from the system. The really interesting thing is we've even found some more optimal algorithms that we can fold in. So now we can even make a smaller set of test cases than before and still reach the same great coverage. So beforehand we were saying, we'll create the minimum number of test cases for the maximum coverage. We've made that better. I mean, that's how good we're talking. So we decided to release this feature in beta for users to try. So you can flick this on in the product today and give it a whirl. And we're still doing some work on this. So we should release this as a replacement optimizer in the next release, ARD 2.8. But you can definitely give it a try today. So it's really useful with large flows. It's really useful with flows with lots of subflows. I mean, this thing is designed for performance. So the more complexity you can throw at the tool, the better. So if you have any, very large flows you've been struggling to generate test cases from, give this a try because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So on that note, I'm just going to load up the tool, go through a little bit, and show you everything we're talking about. How about we start with a nice piece, the license activation. So if you download ARD for the first time, you will be told you don't have a license, and then you'll just get this pop-up. And it just asks you really simply, would you like to be a trial user? Do you want to be a viewer user? or do you have a named license key? So right now I have a license key, and I'm just going to say, great, I want to online activate this because I have web access, no problem. Clicking next, and then it's just going to ask me to paste in my key. So I've got a key I prepared earlier. So I'm just going to paste that in. Click next. It goes away to the activation server. Does that for me. Perfect. Tells me my license is activated. Tells me what I have, the features, when's it going to end. Nice and simple. No frills. Just a clean way to turn the product on. Something which should be effortless. Let's start with, I'm actually just going to grab my presentation. So let's go over the Automatic Model Building Accelerator. So let's create a new flow. And let's just open this up. So if I come into the Import tab on the left-hand side, I've got the list of importers I can use. And the one I really care about is this Selenium Builder importer. So if I just click that, I get a nice little wizard open, and just explains to me very simply, great, you want to import Selenium Builder, tell me where the files are, we'll bring them in. So let's kind of go back to basics and let's look at how we generate those files in the first place. So if I load up the Firefox browser, so like I said, it's this is a plugin for Firefox. So you can go to Selenium Builder's website. It gives you a nice little simple breakdown of how the thing works. Just go to a URL, start recording, click around with the recording on, and then you can run your test cases back. What I'm really interested in is actually doing that. So if I just turn this on now, so I'm just going to launch my Selenium Builder. I get this nice little pop-up. It's, nice and simple. It asks me, do I want to open up an existing script, or do I just want to start from scratch? I just want to start from scratch. So I'm just going to click record, and I'm just going to interact with this website. I'm just going to order this, and I'm just going to click the white color. I'm just going to add this to my bag, and I'm just going to check out. So as I've been interacting, the Selenium recorder has been capturing all the steps. So I can see the first step going to the Apple website, the second step clicking that image of the HomePod, the third step clicking the order button, the fourth specifying the color I want, adding to cart, going to checkout. So I can stop this recording. I can save this. Let's do that. I'll replace that. That's perfect. And now if I come into ARD, I'm just going to load back here. Let's bring in my suite. And here. Great. So I can see the information that was going on, nice and perfect. I've got another suite of test cases. So I've got another suite recording how I actually purchase iPhones, and I see all the steps. It even identifies, the links, all the variables. Each step this recorder computes, we just capture in, nice and easy. So if I just care about importing this, just going to click the import button. Great. Just going to give me a little update. Tell me we had 4 test cases. We had a total of 32 items, so 32 steps among those 4 test cases. And then ARD has automatically detected that there was 22 steps in those test cases which overlapped. Really, really cool. 40 actions of automation and 68 variables completed. So, if you were going to create this model from scratch, I don't know how much time it would probably take the average user, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, but I'm able to do that in a matter of a couple of minutes, that quick. So if I just click done, and if I just look at this model now, so I've got starting point going to the address, my next part, which is saying just clicking an iPhone. Then I get the choice of, or I can click an image actually, and then it asks for screen size. I can pick the different types of iPhones, and instantly, even after this model, I can open up my optimizer and instantly start driving test cases from this. And the really cool part is, even if I have those test cases, I also have the automation scripts already ready. So if I'm importing these test cases with automation, ARD does the hard work for me, does the heavy lifting, generates me the automation, so I can instantly export these test cases back and execute them. Now the really nice part is, say I'd like to make a change to this model, let's say for example there's a, this decision point has a third option. I'm just going to make this up. Great. Just going to save that. And, for option 3, I'm just going to add a new piece of automation. I'm just going to pick this at random. Let's just say input. Yeah, that's fine. And if I come back to my optimizer now and just say, okay, complete me all possible paths, I now have 10 test cases. And for each of these test cases, again, even with that small change, for each of these new test cases, I still have the executable scripts. So the fact of making a small change and you get instant repairability of these automation scripts is so unbelievably powerful. So yeah, I would love for you guys to try this out. Like I said, go to the Selenium website, download the plugin for Firefox, start interacting, bring this in, and see the magic. Really cool. The next part I would like to show you is the new optimizer. So I've actually been using the optimizer so far, and inside Path Explorer, I have this little checkbox to try it. So if you want to try this out yourself, we've actually disabled it by default because of the beta functionality. So if you click on settings in the home screen, you get a list of hidden features we turn off by default, but the one at the bottom is the new optimizer. So if you just check that checkbox, and then when you come into Path Explorer, you'll know you're using it just by this kind of identifier. And like I said, this thing is ridiculously quick. I mean, insanely fast. The only thing I'll mention is actually in this beta release, we didn't put a progress bar in. All the progress bars we originally built just weren't fast enough for this thing, so we're designing a new one. But it'll definitely compute the test cases for you. So it doesn't change how you use the tool. All you have to do is use the same kind of drop-down options that you're familiar with. If I care about all possible paths, I can come in and change how we use constraints or how we use filtering. So none of that changes. Just simply come in, flick it on, try it out. So if you generate a, like I said, if you get a really complicated flow on this, I think you're going to really see the performance bump. And in the next release, like I said, we're going to do even more work on this, and we'll have that progress bar back. So we're working on a design which will show you, exactly what it's doing step by step, so you can see a more accurate progress. It's really cool. Next, I'd love to show you the Agile Central piece. So for any Agile Central customers out there, you can try this out. If you log into ARD, it shows you per project, it shows you the list of items which we have control over. And the piece which I care about is this test plan area. So if I just dive into here, I can see I've got folders, and if I just expand that folder, I have more folders. And if I just break into this, I can see my test cases. Nice and easy. So I'm just going to pick one at random. And look at that. It's a test case describing how to test Agile Central. So, same kind of nice functionality we had before. You can bring these test cases in. If I just navigate back to that really quick. Print 1. Let's pick this test case. Yep. Great. Nice and easy. I can kind of find the test case that I really care about. But obviously the important point for us is that when I have a test case or when I'm generating new ones, I want to export them back to Agile Central. So if we go to Agile Central here, and in my export window, I'm just going to come to this one. Let's just do XAML folder. And I'm just going to send my test case to this new folder. Just going to click OK. I get a little notification saying that that process has started. And I'm just going to grab, yeah, that's perfect. So I can see that export started, export finished. That's perfect. And if I just expand that folder, I can see my test case. So a nice and easy way to organize my test cases in a structured way. The second part of this is that configuration system I was talking about. So, you know, let's say I want to operate with multiple projects. So I have this project here called engineering. I have another project called the pit. And, you know, I've got a user story configured here inside the engineering project. And I have this configured to a couple of different attributes, you know, that I obviously really care about. And I need to configure it for this other project. So normally I'd have to kind of do this manually, use these drop downs and say, you know, I want to configure this attribute with block description and so forth. But a nice simple way, just right click, whatever you'd like to configure, copy configuration, and then this is smart enough to realize what projects it can copy from. So it's going to look over the list of projects and say, you know, out of all of these ones, only one project has a configuration I care about. So I'm just going to pick ARD engineering. And then all of a sudden, we have these configurations already done for me. We can do that on each individual item, or if you care about every item, you can actually click on the project, and then it'll copy everything from available projects. So it really is a massive time saver. And if you have a new item, you know, I can ask ARD, try and find me what it thinks are the best configuration options. So like I said, it'll give me a starting point. So name, block name sounds perfect. Description to block description, perfect. Notes to notes. So it's gone away and looked at all the possible attributes I can have and tried to pick the best ones from ARD it can find. So that's going to be really useful for new first-time users and saving time if you're operating with multiple projects. Really, really nice and simple feature here. So as I've been kind of zipping through this demo, I hope everyone's kind of noticed the new icon set at the top. Nice and clear, nice and uniformed, and just makes the screen a little bit, you know, easier to read. I'm a really, really big fan of that. The last item, which I just want to touch on, is the CA application test piece. So if I just make a new flow, and I'm just going to come to the Import tab, same place I can find the Selenium Builder button. I actually care about the application test importer. And this is a really, really simple piece. If I just browse, and I'm just going to select an existing application test file, I know these by the TST extension. I'm just going to open that. So we're going to first scan that file and then find any variables which are used. So I can see that this test case is using a server and a port to execute this test. And if I just click next, it'll also scan for each step in the test case and bring in the step name, step description. So I kind of understand of what are the steps which are going to be run through in this test case. And then I get a summary. I get told which step, at what point are these variables used in the test case. So I can see that in the first step, where the test case is asking to list all the users from the service, obviously that needs to know where the service is. So it asks for the service and port. And every other step does the same. So if I just click finish, it's just going to create those 4 items for me, really useful. It's also going to create the variables for me. So if I just open up the properties, so if I go to Manage and then Properties, I go to Variables, I can see that the port and the server have been created for me. Amazing. But even more importantly than that, if I come into the items themselves, ARD is smart enough to know that because that variable is used in this this part of the test case, it's automatically assigned the test data here. So, you know, if I change this to be, you know, nice and simple one, let's do 8080, click Save. When I come to my test data screen, so let's just save a test case for this. Perfect. And that's great. So if, for example, you know, let's take data combinations as an example. If I convert this to a decision block, and I'll say, okay, there are many kind of ways I can request users. I can say, you know, list users 1, and I'll just say if there's another way to do it, so I'll call that list users 2. That's perfect. And if I just generate, oh, let me just connect that first. So if I connect this in, and I obviously started with 1 test case. Now I have 2 test cases, you know, both ways to do the users. I'm just going to save these. That's great. Cool. And now I have these 2 test cases. You know, each of these I can actually program with its own set of data. So the more decisions I make, the more possibilities, the more data combinations I have. And to kick that back to application test, all I have to do is say, okay, export these 2 test cases, take application test. It's going to ask me again, you know, please specify the file you care about. And I'm just going to use the same file. Perfect. Then it's going to show you the 2 test cases of the 2 data combinations. It's going to ask you which variables you want to align with. So this is done automatically. You know, if ARD is creating the variables in the first place, we know where to put them back. So you don't have to do anything. Click Next. Asks you where you want to save them, and I'm just going to save them in the same place. Great. And if I come back to my file browser, now my single REST example has been turned into my 2 test cases. So in a short amount of time, I can bring in an existing test case, make a small amount of changes, put some different variables in, and then instantly kick out my data combinations ready to be given back to app test to be run. Nice and easy. So if I just come back to my my presentation, hopefully I've kind of gone through everything in a way which kind of makes sense for everyone, and hopefully gives you a glimpse of how good this release is. And it's live right now. You can go to the CA Downloads website and download ARD 2.7 and try it out for yourself. So, you know, starting from the automation builder all the way down to the optimizer, I mean, some really key and really powerful features in this release. And I'd love you guys to give it a try. The only last part I just want to kind of ask for is if there's any questions. So I'm just going to try and have a look at the chat window for that. So Melanie, I wonder if you can help me. Actually, I don't know how.
Sure. So we don't have any questions in right now, but just a reminder, if you do have any questions, you can enter those into the Q&A box now. That's at the right-hand panel of the WebEx screen. Or if you'd like to ask a question over the phone, now is the time to do that. You can unmute your line by clicking #6 on your telephone keypad. Let's just give it a second for any questions to come in.
Thank you, Melanie.
Sure. Okay. So I don't think we have any questions as of right now. If you think of any questions later on, you can always feel free to go ahead and put them into the community. We're always monitoring that space to answer any questions that come in, so you can feel free to go ahead and do that. I've put up a poll. If you guys can let us know what you thought of the topic for the webcast today, that would be great. We try to take your feedback and use it when planning out future sessions, so it's really helpful to get your opinion. Other than that, thank you so much, Josh. Thanks, Alex, as well. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining, and we hope to see you out in the communities. Keep an eye on the events page for upcoming webcasts that will be scheduled out soon as well. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.